Good evening, everyone. We'll call to order this meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission, March 21st, 2017. We have 6 of 7 planning commissioners present, with Commissioner Josh Zukoski excused this evening. On our consent calendar, we have 2 items: minutes from March 7th, 2017, and Planning Commission bylaws update. Do we have any comments or motions that would like to be made regarding those items? Commissioner Quinn.
Thank you. I will make a motion that we approve the minutes as contained in the packet with the addition of the one word of meeting and that first paragraph on the last page, page 5, as we discussed in the pre-meeting.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. So we have a motion for the minutes to be amended as Commissioner Quinn has proposed, and a second by Commissioner Ashley. Discussion to that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0 unanimously. Commissioner Green.
I'm going to move that we approve the Planning Commission bylaws with the following modification, and that's the new letter O in page 6. And we strike with the words "will automatically" and change that to "may."
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Green and a second by Commissioner Luthi. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0 on item 1B. Brings us to a business item, number 2 on our agenda, deferral of construction and road improvements on 5490 West. Winter Circle Estates. Any discussion regarding business item number 2? Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you. We did discuss this in our pre-meeting and at quite detail, and feel that this could be actually part of the consent calendar if we could ask Julie patiently to look at the minutes from that planning meeting, just a short paragraph, because this is a private lane and it would only be one portion of that private lane that would be improved. You still have to enter it on a private lane. So we would just like it moved to the consent calendar and vote on that.
Is that a motion?
That is.
Thank you. A motion by Commissioner Hanson. Do we have a second to that motion?
Second.
And a second by Commissioner Luthi. Any discussion to that motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously 6-0. Thank you. And a welcome to our scouts who are here this evening and all of our public who have come to participate in the public process. We hope you enjoyed your experience this evening and look forward to what you have to say. We now move to our last item on the agenda, our public hearing. Item number 3, Four Seasons Plaza 2017.
Hey, hold on just a second.
Yes,
I got a
please.
question. You already motioned on the other 2 consent items, and you moved this to the consent. Are you approving that deferral or forwarding this positive recommendation?
Yes, thank you. Well, let's clarify. Commissioner Hanson, would you like to clarify the motion?
Yes, that we have approved the first 2 items on the consent calendar. I make the motion that this also be placed on the consent calendar, and then add the small paragraph that was in the pre-meeting to our meeting, to our minutes.
And approving it as part of the consent.
Do you have any action that you would like to propose regarding approving or denying the deferral of construction of road improvements?
No, I'm asking for approval.
Okay. So the motion, correct me if I'm wrong, is to recommend approval.
Yes.
Great. So we have a motion by Commissioner Hanson recommending approval of the deferral of construction of road improvements on 5490 West relative to business item number 2 on our agenda this evening. Commissioner Luthi, would you like to take any action on that? Okay, so a re-second by Commissioner Luthi. Any discussion to the clarification on that motion that we are approving the deferral of construction of road improvements? Let's vote, please. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you for the clarification.
Well, I apologize for including it all together rather than separately.
The buck stops here. I'll take the heat.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Public hearing now, number 3 on our agenda, Four Seasons Plaza 2017, 2273 West, 7800 South, the preliminary site plan in a CG zone. Vision Development Group, Jeff Callahan is the applicant. Is he present this evening? Please come forward, Mr. Callahan, and tell us what you would like to present regarding your application.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Callahan. I'm with Vision Development Group. I'm also one of the 4 owners of Four Seasons Insurance. It's a local family-owned and operated insurance agency. The plan behind this is very similar to our first plan that we brought in, I want to say 6 to 9 months ago. We got that all through to the city, to all the way to probably a month out from construction, but we decided that the plan we went with wasn't the best course of action for our business. So we have now gone back to our engineering and to our builder to kind of come up with a better game plan for what would be a better use of the lot, allow for better traffic flow, and better usage of our commercial space. So this is basically your site plan here. The top of the page would be north, 7800 south. We're looking to do 2 identical commercial buildings with a drive-through access on each side. We plan to do it in 2 phases. Lot 1A would be phase 1. And then Lot 1B would be phase 2 for an undetermined date at this point. These are the elevations to the building here. Give you an idea of what the building would look like. It's going to be very similar to the other commercial buildings in the area. There's, I think it's Floyd and Lizzie's sewing shop right next door. It won't be identical to their building, but it will be similar, so it will go with the flow of the commercial area. Just a 2-story on one half. Each of those buildings will be 2-story on half of the building, and then just 1 story on the other. So you can kind of see it flows up to a 2-story as it gets to the center of the lot. And then is there any other elevations? Okay. So pretty much it's a very similar concept to what we had on last one. We just changed the design of the building for better flow of traffic and better use of the lot, and it also helped on construction costs. So that's
Great.
pretty much it. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Callahan. Any questions for the applicant? If you could please stay at the podium, sir. We'll have a few questions for you, I believe. Commissioner Green.
I just have to ask, Jeff or Joe?
I'm Jeff. My brother Joe is here with me
Okay.
as well. So
I just,
one of
because
the-
we had, it was confusing on the application, so I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, the initial application Loretta took was with Joe. And
Okay,
so-
I just wanted to make sure that we had the staff report right, and I was confused, so never mind. Yeah, but you're better looking, so.
Well, great, thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? Whether it be Jeff or Joe. Okay, thank you. We'll reserve some time after public comments if you'd like to address anything that's brought up. And Ms. Larson, you have this report for city staff?
Thank you. So the application is for a preliminary site plan review. It is a phased development, so the preliminary site plan review would include both of the buildings proposed at the site. During final review, each individual phase would be looked at. The property is zoned general commercial with zoning conditions attached to that zone. The zoning conditions exclude certain types of uses that can be located on this site. The types of uses that the applicants are looking at aren't included in that list of excluded uses. The 2 buildings will have a total square footage of 10,200 square feet total. with a building footprint of 7,200 square feet. On the site plan, staff will require that a landscaping buffer towards the south property line is included in the site plan. That would be a 16-foot landscaping buffer with a 6-foot solid fence. And in that 16-foot landscaping buffer, 1 tree would be required for every 400 square feet of landscaped area. Staff is recommending that Planning Commission approve the preliminary site plan with the 15 conditions listed in the staff report.
Great, thank you, Ms. Larson. Any questions for staff regarding this item?
I do.
Commissioner Green?
So the drive-through traffic, the flow of the traffic around the building, based on the design, it looks like it's one way. Is that what we anticipate? Is that?
What drive-through traffic?
Well, I mean, obviously they have to drive around the building to get to the south side parking lot. And all the arrows point going to the south, around the building, and then coming back to the north to 7800. Am I reading that right?
There's an entrance off of Duke Street there on the southwest line. So they drive east from Duke Street on the south portion of the line.
Sorry, I should have specified. This access to Duke Street will be Bolliard off, so it would only be accessible towards emergency vehicles. So this, the parking lot to the north and the aisle access to the parking stalls isn't necessarily one-way traffic. It could be both ways, but you wouldn't access the south parking lot through the driveway if you're coming from the north parking lot. That would be at the shared driveway towards the east, which is shared with Floyd's sewing machine.
Okay. So that's how they're
Does that
going
answer your question?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how the traffic's going to get to the south side of the building.
It'll be on the east side. So anything that's accessible on the north would be for either this drive-through on the west side of the building or the parking lot. If you're looking at going, accessing the south portion of the building, it will be along this east driveway, which is an access easement with Floyd's sewing machine.
Okay, I think that makes more sense. That's where I was confused. So okay, because there is a street there on the east side right now that you can.
Yeah, it's Duke's Street on the east side, and that is accessible on the south west portion of the site.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other
This is on the
questions
west
for
side.
staff? All right, well, this was noticed as a public hearing, so we'd like to encourage anyone who would like to speak on this item to come to the podium and please offer your name and your address so that we can get that on the minutes, and you'll be given 3 minutes to speak. And we would, however, like if multiple people speak, if they could please add new comments to the testimony that's already been spoken. So what we try to do is discourage duplicative commentary, as we will address every item that has been brought to our attention. We did have someone sign up in advance. Ms. Tammy Salati, are you she? Thank you very much. Please state your address for the record.
It's 2304 West Duke Circle, West Jordan 84088.
Thank you.
So we are the landowners to the south. It is residential along there. So we had some questions, and you kind of clarified that, because we were under the impression there was drive strip in off of Duke Street, and that is not correct. So,
Do you want us to just take all comment and then we'll
Yes,
address them at
please.
the end?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll wait till the end.
okay.
Thank
And
you.
then our other concern is the height difference between our yard and that piece of property is probably 3 to 4 feet in height difference. We wondered how they were going to maintain that from sloughing off during the time.
Okay. Thank you. We'll address that too.
Other than that, those are our only concerns.
Well, thank you, Ms. Salati. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Would anyone else like to speak on this item? Seeing none, we'll close the public comment and bring us back to discussion so that we can address these items. Well, we have the, let's have the applicant come back up and address these actually.
Yeah, for clarification, I guess your questions were if there's going to be an access off of Duke Street for this development, correct?
Correct.
So on that one, yes, there will be on the southwest corner, which would be the same as our prior development that was approved. UDOT's already gone through that as well. That is already designed on that lot. It's kind of stubbed and curbed for it. But yes, that would be an access to help flow traffic to come down through Jukes, and then they can also come back out on the east side. So the development would really would benefit from having accesses from the east and west side. And then as far as the height, I believe we are within our height requirements for the CG zoning. The building is no taller than our previous one that we had gone through the same commission and site review on. This time around, though, we've actually had additional time to plan for inconvenience for the public behind. Our lighting design is actually better this time than it was the last go around. Our design would be for the lights across the front, at the front of the property, so the building will block the lighting from hitting the residential to shine the building, and then just small LEDs on the back of the building directed directly down at the parking lot, so there wouldn't be really any lights into their backyard to interrupt their evenings at their houses. Other than that, have I kind of clarified, kind of hit every note on that for her?
Let's check out for, we've got Commissioner Green with a question, and then Commissioner Hanson, and I think we need to clarify just the topography. We'll probably go to staff for that. Commissioner Green?
Well, that was my questions. I think that the person that spoke, she's talking about a difference in topography between your, and I don't know which one's higher and which one's lower. I'm not familiar. I haven't driven over through that piece of land and know that. So the residential piece is higher, and the
no, I don't. Actually, I believe. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if she's referring to the grading as well as where the storm runoffs is. I don't know if that's her concern, is the storm runoff, or if it's just the visual grading, like where the buildings will be sitting. But
okay, let's keep the discussion going. And Commissioner Hanson, please.
Yes, it's my understanding that one of these accesses will be bollard, just for emergency service. Which access is that?
That would be the one that we would be creating on Duke Street, the northwest. So that was actually a recommendation by the fire departments to
Further down.
Correct, and it's because the building frontage will have too long of footage for them to back out if they were to come down. If they can't get through that drive-through on the west side, they wanted to have a fire access to come out if they had to get an emergency vehicle in. So that's per their request to put that in there.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. And so, Mr. Nelson, our city engineer, would you be able to speak toward the topography difference in height elevation?
No. I couldn't speak to in detail like it's being asked. I'm not the engineer that did the review on this. It looks to me like it's fairly flat. We're not talking more than a few feet of elevation difference, but I'm sure the developer could state a little bit more which pad's higher.
Great, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Winter, this is going to be addressed anyway as this moves forward.
Indeed, we'll look at the details of the final. Looking at the contour lines on our city map, and like Mr. Nelson indicated, the area is fairly flat. I'm not seeing any significant grade drops with the contour lines. It might be a couple feet at that.
But to move forward to final, that would have to be addressed anyway, and it'd have to be within city code.
Of course.
Okay, so that issue is addressed. Great. Thank you. Any other questions or comments for the applicant? Commissioner Luthi.
I did. As one of the things on there, it talks about the fencing. It's going to run along the residential property. And my concern was, is it going to match the same wall, essentially, that is farther to the east, so that you've got that same look all the way through?
Yeah, I believe that's like a cinder block wall there.
Okay.
And it will be, yes, it would be cinder block all the way.
So you'll just
Yeah, we
continue
weren't
that
even allowed to do
existing-
vinyl, it needs to be, I believe, cinder block wall.
Okay, so it'll just match right in.
Correct.
Perfect.
Correct. I think there is a fence there now, but we'll be putting up a solid 6 foot
Okay.
masonry wall. So, and then beyond that should be our, I think it was 15 foot or 16 foot
Landscape.
landscaping buffer.
Correct, okay.
Commissioner Green.
I read some body language in the back that I'm gonna move to suspend the rules so I can ask a question of the lady that testified.
I was hoping someone might. We want to make sure everybody feels fairly treated here. I would be amenable to that. I'd second that motion. Any discussion of that? Let's go. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Will you come back up here so I can ask you the question?
Yes, Ms. Salati again.
What's your perception of the height difference in the property?
At least the height of your desk,
So it's 3 feet or so? Okay.
at least. Yeah, we're quite a bit higher. The property actually, as it comes off, the sidewalk drops a little bit and goes back, and then we're built up off of it.
So your property's actually higher?
Correct.
Okay.
And if we could please ensure that, just for the public record, we can only have the person at the podium speaking, so that when people reference this meeting again, that all the words are understood. So we don't want to quash any conversation, we just need to make sure it's podium to commission. So please continue.
So our concern is that over time, if it's not landscaped correctly, that's gonna go, and with it will be that fence, and if it is cinder block, it will crack, and that's an issue.
Okay.
And a concern that we have, because we put in a $1,000 fence there, so.
Commissioner Luthi.
So it's just the eroding, you're not concerned with the fact that you're sitting above, so the fence height isn't going to actually, deter your view. You're not worried about, you're just worried about the actual engineering of the wall.
Yeah, because we've already discussed it with them when they first came in. They came and talked to us, and they're going to replace the fence. It'll go right along the fence line, so that we already have a fence there. We're going to tear ours out, let them put in, because theirs is higher than ours. But so it's not going to. That's not going to block the view. If anything, it's going to be the building that will block. And in some ways that's advantageous, because right now, the traffic noise off 78th is quite loud.
So correct me if I'm wrong here, but if they're going to put in a wall that's going to act more as a wall than a fence, because it's going to be retaining, they would have to include any kind of design that would make it so that there was a sub-drain or whatever else to be able to, so that the wall didn't tip over, or...
Yeah, I'm assuming that you're gonna put in a wall, you've got a fence now, you're gonna put in a wall sometime between now and the time
No,
this project
we
is built.
aren't going to put anything in. We wondered what they're going to do to keep.
Right, I meant that the cinder block fence is going to have to act as a retaining wall unless they're bringing the property up to match your property.
Right.
And if it did, it would go through the engineering process to make sure that it would be able to adequately support being a retaining wall, correct? To alleviate her fears, that's the question.
Generally, a retaining wall, we don't recognize a retaining wall as a retaining wall unless it's over 4 feet of retention.
Okay,
It doesn't go through a specific review for the wall.
okay,
So whatever goes on this plan would be the final thing. So that's something that we'll make note of.
okay.
And that as this project gets through final, that we'll make sure that the wall gets put on, that there's a proper transition of grades. But it would not go through, I don't see any need for retaining wall here, because it's not more than 4 feet high.
Okay.
So
Commissioner Green. Oh, sorry. Go
And
ahead,
I-
Ms. Salati.
I've got one more question for staff then. If the grade difference from the property is 3 or 4 feet different, and the code says that they're supposed to put in a whatever height fence, 6 foot or 8 foot, where are we measuring it from their line or from the higher piece of property? Because if we measure from the lower piece, then that fence is only going to be if it's a 6-foot fence, it's only gonna be 3 foot high. If it's an 8-foot fence, only 4 or 5 feet high. So I'm wondering what the city code is there on that particular, is it measured from whose property is it measured from, I guess is my question.
It's measured from the grade that the fence is sitting directly on.
So if it's used as a retaining wall, then the fence is gonna be on the low side, which means that the fence may actually have to be a 9-foot fence. Or whatever, a higher, 3 feet higher than normal.
We allow for an 8-foot fence in the CG zone. Planning Commission, if you determine to allow for a higher fence, you are able to do that.
Because like, if it's an 8-foot fence and there's a 3-foot grade difference, if we measure from the lower end, they're only gonna have a 5-foot fence from their property, and that, to me, that's as much a concern as the sloughing off, so that's why I'm asking, so.
Thank you. Commissioner Luthi.
From what I'm reading on the grading plan, though, it doesn't look like, it looks like they're catching it back up with the slope, and it's not actually needing the wall, because the slope itself is catching it back up. Is that correct? Is that what you're anticipating? Okay, okay. So the property line may be up, but then it's going to slope down to the lower part. So the fence will be up at the property line, up at their elevation, so it won't actually be retaining anything, and then it slopes down to the rest of the property. That's what I'm reading in this grading plan. So I don't think that that's going to be a problem based on what they're presenting.
We just couldn't tell from the.
That's what I'm doing. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I'm reading out of it.
I'm glad you can read a grading plan.
That's what I do all day.
One thing I would offer is just to put the residents' concerns in perspective is that as we do a final site plan review on this, we'd be welcome to explain it as we, have the resident come in. We'd be happy to go over with them just so they can understand what's going on.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Swati, appreciate it. So we'll bring this back to the commission now for discussion. So I'm wondering, with these concerns that we've had, do we need to add another condition of approval of the fence match the current fence?
They're going to tear down the current fence, according to Mr. Lottie.
You mean the adjacent fence, or
The fence to the east.
There you go.
Do we want to add that as a condition of approval?
I would.
Because the slope, the grading, the other fence is going to be taken care of through city code, and as we engineer this through to the final phase, it looks like those are the only two concerns here. So just throwing that out there as chair, not trying to dictate what goes on, just offering the topic of discussion. Any thoughts on that matter, or anything else relative to this item?
The way you read the grading plan is that you got a difference. And the fence is gonna sit up here, and then the grade's then it has to be graded, on that grade, there's gonna have to be something to maintain that slope, landscape, or whatever. Is that what you read? Okay.
Yes.
I'll buy her expert opinion on that one.
Any other discussion, any motion?
George.
Commissioner Green.
Based on the positive findings set forth in the staff report and the information received during this meeting, I move that the Planning Commission approve the Four Seasons Plaza preliminary site plan for the property located at 2273 West, 7800 South, in a CGZC zone, say that fast 3 times, zoning district with conditions 1 through 15 in the staff report. And then are we adding condition 16 that says that the fence will be consistent and match the one to the east that's part of the sewing machine company's building?
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Green, a second from Commissioner Quinney. Any discussion of that motion? My thought is just to specify which fence we're talking about, since we've been talking about two fences.
We're talking about the masonry
The
fence.
south fence on the property to the east.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we get that in the
CMU fence.
minutes.
Yes.
Right. Any other discussion to that? Let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. unanimously. Thank you.
Chair, could I
Yes.
just clarify with that last condition, you're talking about matching in materials, color, not necessarily height, correct?
Correct.
Is that your
Do we
understanding?
need to amend that?
Consistent look and feel.
Okay.
Well, if it's a consistent look and feel, why wouldn't it be the same height?
Well, because the height would vary on the actual property. I mean, it's gonna hit the conditions of what elevations.
Right, yeah, so we're trying to
So there may be a different
verify what
elevation
height we're talking
difference
about.
on
We're
the
talking
other
about
one.
the top of the fence, or,
I think we're talking about that it matches the CM.
Color and
Color.
textiles is what I meant. Yes.
right. So, Mr. Murray, do we need to re-motion that?
I think you just do a second clarifying motion, just to indicate that your prior motion did not necessarily have anything to do with height. You'd be fine.
Thank you. Would you like to make that official motion, Commissioner Luthi? Or wait, who?
That was your
I
motion.
didn't.
You made the motion.
I'll
You
make
made-
the
no, it's Mr. Langford that
I'll
made
make the clarifying motion that the condition of the fence is not related to height, but it's color, texture.
Property.
Second.
Great, and then we have a second from Commissioner Quinn. Any discussion to that clarifying motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously, 6-0. Thank you. And we have one other item that's not on the agenda. City staff would like us to appoint a planning commissioner to serve on the CDBG committee. And as Commissioner Green said, try to say that fast. CDBG. So the Community Development Block Grant Committee. It would require approximately 3 meetings during the months of April and May, commencing approximately 3 p.m. or 3:30, lasting for approximately 90 minutes. Would anyone like to serve on that committee from the Planning Commission?
I'll volunteer if I can make it work on my calendar.
And if Mr. Green can't, I will.
I just need to know the dates well enough in advance that it
They
doesn't
let you
conflict.
know, Chuck lets you know ahead of time. So if you want to give him his information, if he can't make it, then my information.
Chuck Tarter, his office is on the second floor, adjacent to the conference room. Great, so for the record, we have Commissioner Green volunteering to serve on the CDBG committee this year. And as a secondary backup, we have Commissioner Hanson. Thank you for volunteering. It's a great committee. And again, a welcome and thanks to the public that have come out and all the scouts. Anybody want to stand up and give the scout oath? Please, come forward, please, come forward.
They picked the smallest guy.
Please come to the podium. You can pull the microphone down. Please tell us your name and give us the scout oath.
My name is Tyson, and I'm gonna give the scout oath. A scout, on my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country, and to obey the scout law, to help other people at all times, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight.
Very well done, Tyson. What is your last name, please?
Marquette.
Tyson Margetts. Well, you've certainly fulfilled the scout oath tonight by coming out to the public process as well as all of your friends and leaders. So thank you very much. One day you'll probably be sitting up here where we are. Wonderful. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. Is there any other business that anyone
It looks like there's a hand.
Please,
Yeah.
Mr. Langford.
So in the pre-meeting, I think it was Commissioner Luthi brought up a good point on perhaps how we can better improve the materials that we give to the commission, specifically in regard to exhibits. We'll make sure that we're more consistent with providing north arrows, road labels and stuff. But I also wanted to maybe expand it to see if there were any other recommendations from the commission that we can improve. Just as a heads up, we'll probably in the next, 4 or 5 months, transition the style of our staff reports, if you're not opposed to it, to match more with what our city council staff reports look like. It seems like, I don't know if you're familiar with the look and feel of the city council staff reports, but they start, they basically have an executive summary, a recommended motion right from the get-go, and then we get it and meet afterwards. It would certainly help our staff, just in the amount of time, tweaking reports. It'd be better just to make smaller changes so we can get to our work. Councilman Anderson has recently attended meetings in other cities, other city council meetings, and he's brought a couple of great recommendations on how we, again, it goes back to consistency and how we can be consistent, not just in our staff reports, and I think we do a great job, but our presentations. And I think some of the comments that he's giving to us maybe reflecting upon the reports that he's seen as new councilman have been from consultants from the applicants and not necessarily staff. But regardless, I agree with a lot of the points that he's made, that it just helps with the flow of meetings if the presentations are consistent and predictable, and the material it kind of flows through. So with that, we're happy to entertain. If you don't have any ideas off the top of your head right tonight, be thinking about that, and you can email them to me, or we can talk about it in future meetings. But if there's any suggestions tonight, I'm happy to hear them.
Scott, I don't know when you said the North Arrow, because I agree with Commissioner Luthi, but also adjacent street names is very helpful when we're looking at it. So if we could have that.
Orientation, northwest, southeast, and if it makes sense to staff, it streamlines your work, plus it's consistent with what City Council is doing. Personally, I don't have any problem with that, and would welcome anything that makes your job easier and helps us understand the information. This past issue of Planning Magazine had a really good multi-page article on streamlining staff reports as well, if that could be of any assistance. Any other thoughts?
I agree.
You're getting a lot of head nods.
Okay.
That's right. 6 head nods to 0. 6 nods, 0 shakes. Right. Thank you.
I move we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Great. We stand adjourned.